Physics YouTube. So, we have a very famous physicist here today who's going to be speaking to you about his work and his life.
Hello, everyone. My name is Edwin Hubble, or rather the ghost of Edwin Hubble, and I was a world-class physicist.
Okay, so seeing as you're not alive now, and this is a very weird apparition, but it's very cool. Where did you live? When did you live?
Well, you see, I lived and went to school in Wheaton, Illinois until I was 11 years old, but I was born in Marshfield, Missouri on November 20th, 1889.
Very interesting. So, as a child, were you troublesome or were you just the good studying every day when you got home?
Well, I was a good child, or at least I like to think I was, but I originally planned to follow my father into law and become a lawyer. However, I've posthumely been dubbed as less than honest in some circles, but overall I like to think that I was a semi-decent fella.
Very interesting, very interesting. So, where did you go to school, and what did you study?
Well, I graduated from the University of Chicago, and I led research in the field of astrophysics at Mount Wilson Observatory in California. But I also served in World War I and after college, and before I settled down and started doing some research in California.
Okay. So, seeing as you're a ghost, I hope this isn't offensive to any of our viewers. In what country did you die, and how did you die, and what age?
Yeah, well, I was working at the Wilson Observatory when I died from a sudden heart attack on September 28, 1953 in San Marino, California, and I was 63 years old, but I was here in the States.
Good to know you're home when you died. So the world, we all kind of know what you did and how it kind of relates to what happened. But what are your awards that you received?
Yeah, well, I was very fortunate to win many awards during my lifetime, some of them being the Franklin Medal, the Bruce Medal, Legion of Merit, also the Newcomb Cleveland Prize and the Gold Medal of the Royal Astronomical Society. So each of these were awarded and given to me for my efforts and studies in astrophysics and astronomical kind of studies. It's about recessional velocity, and as that increases, as does the distance from Earth increases in the galaxy. Basically, all those fancy words mean that our galaxy and our universe that we live in is always expanding.
Very interesting, very interesting. Moving right along. So, were you a solo type of guy, or did you do your research with other famous physicists?
Well, I actually did do some work with some other physicists. Me and my good friend Al Einstein, for a brief period, we discussed on his theory of general relativity and how it relates to my theory of the universe always expanding.
So, as we all know, the world doesn't just stop for science. What major events were happening while you were alive?
Yeah, well, during my life, obviously, when I was alive, I served in the World War I, also re-enlisted during World War II, and was alive during the start of the Cold War. But some other things that went on in my lifetime were also the Great Depression, which kind of affected the public's interest level of my type of work.
Again, dealing with what some people would say an offensive topic. So what were your religious beliefs, and did they influence your work?
Yeah, well, it's a typical question. But for my whole life, I was raised a Christian. And throughout all my research, I developed some pretty crazy theories that kind of go against the church doctrine. However, I never let my religion influence my work.
Okay, so some interesting stuff there. What was your research generally about? What did you discover?
Well, this is quite a hefty topic, but I'll try to hit some of the surface. So basically, I was the scientist who first theorized about recessional velocity that increases as distance from the Earth increases in the galaxy. I also created what is known as Hubble's law, which can be summarized as implying that the universe that we know is constantly expanding, which was pretty cool experience to be able to research that. Next, I also devised something that is now commonly accepted as the technique of identifying galaxies based on their appearance in the telescope, whether they're red-shifted or blue-shifted in color. Furthermore, I came to understand the issues or the uses of the redshift and blue shift and what they mean. And basically, they meant they could help us see whether these galaxies or stars or celestial objects were moving closer to us or further away from us as a galaxy. Lastly, I also used that principle of the redshift and blue shift to arrange the galaxies in a sequence that is called the Hubble sequence. So I did quite a lot of research and things in my lifetime.
By the way, actually, if any of you viewers who started this video with us and started at the beginning, if any of you are still watching, please leave a comment on your thoughts. Okay, so back to your video. Presentation. So what would you say was your most significant contribution?
Yeah, well, I would say my most significant contribution to physics and science as a whole was, along the lines of what I mentioned earlier, as I researched the theory on the redshift and the way we're able to see things moving closer towards the Earth. So it's called the redshift because of the way light travels to the Earth in space, and it shows up red because of the, based on the color spectrum. But I would say that would definitely be my most significant contribution.
Okay. So, so I know this wasn't, you didn't have as much technology back then. Well, now we do. I mean, we're finding more ways to get to places like Mars, and the moon is becoming easier and easier to get to. How does this affect us?
Well, overall, this is very significant, and this could really, affect human people because, we are always constantly looking for places which can turn up new types of materials or metals or elements, and also even better yet, we've always been looking for, the chances or the opportunity of a place to find another habitable planet. So I think using my redshift theory and how it's proved to be true, we can help maybe possibly find a new planet for the humankind to live on someday. And
so this next part, before anybody flames me in the comments, I'm not trying to debate a renowned astrophysicist. Now, there are some critics who say not all of what you researched or found was true. So, going back on what you said, do you think anything could have been more accurate?
Yeah, well, definitely. Doing a bunch of research, you can't be super sure with all of it. Actually, there was a slight issue in some of my findings. Overall, they turned out to be just fine, but the process in which I used to, get to my conclusions on the theories of relativity, using Einstein's theories of relativity, using that into my, my conjecture, my finding of the fact that the universe is always growing. Albert had to change some of his formulas to kind of derive, whatever I used, the formulas and things and the findings that I used to prove my theory. So those were altered a little bit, but the overall significance of my findings held true. But there was a slight change in it, so it wasn't all 100% accurate.
Okay, that should be it for this episode. We'll see you guys next week as we discuss some guy I have not met yet.
See you later, guys.